Hello, I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, and today I'm doing a comparison of two wristwatches. That's right, fuckers. I'm going to be comparing a $1,200 wristwatch compared to a Rolex sports wristwatch. Now, to make this comparison fair, I've decided to get some second-hand watches. And I've chosen this Oris here. This is quite an attractive Oris. And it's a piece which my dealer friend quoted me about 500 US on. It comes complete with box and papers. And to compare this watch, so let's talk about the prices. This Oris here would be about $1,500, $2,000 new. And second-hand wise, fuckers, it's about 500 US. Let's have a look at the Rolex Explorer 2. And I've gone for a model which is actually a 10-year-old piece because I want to replicate a classic case of what most people would be buying on the used market. So I've gone for a Rolex Explorer 2, classic 40mm. And this watch here would retail replacement be about $9,000. On the second-hand market, you'd probably be paying about $5,000. So we're comparing a $500 wristwatch, second-hand, compared to a $5,000 watch. And what can you notice with these watches? Now, these two pieces here, they are a bit different. The Rolex has the GMT function. That's not to say the GMT function is worth thousands of dollars more, because for around the same price, you can get mid-tier sort of watches. This test here is to compare two watches and do a comparison of what is the intrinsic, what difference is there between the two. So let's firstly start with this Oris itself here. And the first thing we'll do is we'll have a bit of a look at it. It's got a sapphire crystal. It's got quite an attractive dial color. It's sort of a, what would you call it? It's sort of a bronzy gray color. And it's a very, very trendy, in vogue sort of color. So I'm just trying to turn the piece just so that we can get a bit more attention. It appears to be kind of a guilloche dial. But let's have a look here at the actual case itself here. Stainless steel construction. This watch here came out of Japan. It's from a dealer, and it's still got plastic on the actual bracelet itself. One thing which is nice is that we've got a display. There is a very nice display back on this piece here. And this here lets us, this is something that high-end makers like Patek Philippe would do, but no, unfortunately, we've got a very utilitarian movement here, and it's a nice, this just shows you this is what this segment of the market expects. They like a few niggly little show-off type of things, but come on, fuckers, any serious horological person would say that movement is absolute dog shit. It's not finished. It's not worthy of display. Now let's have a look at how this piece is put together there. Stainless steel, nothing wrong with that. Just looking at the attention to detail, it's not as, look, it certainly represents its price point. The screws aren't all uniform, but you know, it's nice enough. The watch itself has the classic Oris big crown, which is sort of a trademark of the Oris brand there. And it's featuring a ETA movement. God forbid. God forbid. The clasp itself there, squeeze in the middle and it comes undone. It's quite a, what would you say about the bracelet there? It's fairly common sort of bracelet for this price point. It's not a exceptionally fantastic bracelet. nor is it exceptionally bad. It's what you'd call mid-tier. This is the mid-tier price range, because with Oris, you're talking about this is a Swiss piece, and I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with it. I think it represents everything quite nicely there. I don't have a problem with it as such. It's quite a nice piece there. Now let's compare the construction and quality to the Rolex Explorer 2. So let's zoom in and see what we think here of our Rolex Explorer 2. And I've got to say one thing: we may not have that cliched Guilloche dial, but the actual printing itself, the dial just does seem to be a step above the Oris. I'm sorry, fuckers. I'm telling you what I think. I also love the fact that this piece here, we've got really nice Mercedes hands. So it suits this watch to a T. Nothing wrong with the Oris hands, I must say. Now, I must say one thing that's more uniform is that this case here is a combination of brushed and polished surfaces. And we can see this if we take a look at the way the bracelet is prepared. It's quite nicely done there. And it's more uniformed, whereas the Oris was more pressure blasted. The Rolex has set purpose in its case preparation. We also have a no holes case. Rolex has improved things over the years to go about this nicely. Rolex also has a very nice, very unique flip lock clasp here. And this has been a hallmark of modern Rolex sports watches. And whilst it's hard for me to do this single-handed, I've managed to flip the bastard open. Let's take a look at the bracelet construction there. And I've got to say, in all honesty here, this is a much nicer, much more, how would you put it? Much more expensive type of bracelet. You can tell looking at the markings on the bracelet itself there with the Rolex logo and Rolex pattern there. That's expensive shit to do. The Oris has no such luxury features on it. Just very generic steel type of clasp, no safety flip lock. But we're looking at a watch which is on the second-hand market 10 times cheaper than the Rolex. Interestingly enough, the Rolex piece itself there does not have the movement on display. And it's quite interesting that the Rolex movement itself, Rolex did not consider it a show pony type of movement. Rolex said, no, we're not going to do that. That's not our forte. Whereas the Oris has gone incredibly gimmicky. And it just shows you what sort of things the nasty fuckers in the cheaper price range expect. They expect more shit for free. That's the truth, fuckers. That really is the truth. So, what can we say in summing up these two very different watches, fuckers? What can you say indeed? Well, they're both Swiss watches. Oris is quite a well-known name in the dog shit end of the Swiss industry. And of course, Rolex is probably the most famous luxury wristwatch brand in the world. What can we say there? Well, I think a few generalizations are that, the Rolex itself is really a piece of art. The Oris, well, it's a watch to last. It's a watch for the times. It'll last a couple of years and then eventually it'll be discarded. The bracelet will break and it'll be, it's one of these fucking things. It just isn't worth economically repairing. Whereas the Rolex will be savored. Hopefully it'll be treated a lot nicer and it will last a couple of lifetimes. It's an heirloom piece. So in summing up here, is the Rolex worth 10 times as much as the Oris? Is it worth 10 times as much? I'm going to tell you 100% yes, fuckers. 100% yes. It's definitely worth it. You get what you pay, fuckers. You get what you pay for. If you want to be a cheap, stingy, nasty fucker, buy the Oris. Buy the Oris, you cheap fucking cunts. You buy that fucking piece of shit and you look like a turd. That's the sort of person who would buy an Oris there. You look like a cheap-ass bastard. Whereas if you wear the Rolex, you look like an international man of mystery and style. So in my opinion, ArchieLuxury has spoken. It is definitely worth 10 times the price. And I really think the Rolex trumps the Oris. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing the Oris. But I am Archibald Chesterfield III, international YouTube star and celebrity. I'd like to hear what you fuckers think of this. Please come to part 2 where I compare the Rolex box and the Oris box. I'm Archibald Chesterfield III. Tell me what you nasty, vicious, foul-mouthed, cheap fuckers think of that. Nice one, Archie. Great comparison.
We specialize in the repair of Rolex and Patek Philippe watches. We've been doing the same thing for more than 25 years. We have Rolex technicians certified by Rolex who actually used to work for the company for many years, like if we're doing the work on the factory. We completely disassemble the watch and we put it to work like brand new condition. When you get a pre-owned watch, it's like if you're getting a brand new unit. The only difference is the money.